Welcome artistic visitors and subscribers to Monet Cafe. Today I'm doing a product review using Arteza watercolor products, and I'm including pastel with it. We're also having a lesson, so it is about creating this happy painting with some of these Arteza products. I was approached by Arteza to do a product review. Unfortunately, they don't have any pastels, but they do have watercolors. They have colored pencils, all kinds of different products, and they were generous enough to send me some of their supplies. I told them I like to use watercolors for underpaintings, so they sent me these 3 different products that they have, and I'm going to be going over the products in this video and using them to create an underpainting. Now this is their box of 60, yes, a whole box of 60 watercolors. You can mix your own watercolors, but man, this was awesome to have so many colors. You don't need this many colors just for our purposes, but it was fun. Their paper I loved. It was a really great cotton grade paper, and they also sent me some metallic gouache paints that I want to use more. I barely used them for this painting, but I will play around with them some more. So let's get started, and I'll go into explaining the products. Now here we are in the Arteza website, just arteza.com. Notice all the different tabs up here, so many different supplies that they have, but I'm in the paint section, and I will be using, of course, the watercolor paints to do an underpainting. And I thought I'd go down here and show you some prices. The set that they gave me to review is the 60 set. Okay, now notice 60 sets, 60 tubes of watercolor paint. A professional grade is going to be way more expensive than this $38. Okay, so I'm going to show you that like on a comparable or a another watercolor that is a professional grade. But we are not doing professional watercolor paintings when we do a watercolor underpainting with pastels. So as long as these are archival, I'll confirm that, meaning they're acid free, they're not going to change colors or anything like that. These should be fine. So you shouldn't have to spend an arm and a leg if you're wanting to learn pastels and you want to get some watercolors to use for your underpaintings. Sometimes professional grade watercolors get so expensive. So I wanted to show a couple of the little other watercolor sets they have. Here's one that's just 12. These are going to be colors that are more mixable. The great thing about painting, like with paints, is that you can mix your own colors once you learn how to combine them and everything. So look, $12.99 for a little 12 tube set here. They also have the pans, which are convenient. By the way, the tube watercolors, you squeeze them out, and it's okay if they dry. They turn into a solid form of watercolor that you can use just like pan watercolors, okay? But out of the tube, when they're fresh like that, it's really the best and the most vibrant. But I usually work with pans. So look at that. That's another 12 half set, $24.99. Those are very affordable. They also have acrylic paints. They gave me a sample of the gouache metallic. I'll have to do another video playing around with that. So let me see what other kind of, oh, here's a watercolor set they have up here. This one is a set of 24. And that should be plenty for what you need if you're going to do underpaintings. That's only $26, okay? So they've got some good prices on their watercolors. Again, some of these are acrylic, so be careful when you look at them. They look kind of the same. Now let's just, to compare, let's go over to Winsor Newton, okay? These are professional grade. I happen to love some of their little sets like this, okay? This one is, let's see, how many are in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 12, okay? But these are little, okay? You're not going to get as much. This is like a little travel set or something for $18.76. Let's go down here. Okay, now here's where we're getting into the really good stuff, all right? $90, okay? Let's click this and look at this one. And I like Winsor Newton watercolor paints. If I wasn't interested in doing watercolors, I probably would not spend this much money on them, though, if I was just getting them for underpaintings. So let's see here. This is just a set of 12 for $90, okay? So the price really bumps up when you go to professional grade. And you're going to see when I do this video review, you're going to see how the product behaves, the Arteza product. And I think it did quite well, you know. I don't typically compare watercolors one to another, but again, let's just take a look at how they behave, and if the price is right, it's going to be a good product for you. Again, don't spend too much on products. It's just like when your kids are young and they say, I want to be a horseback rider. You don't go buy them a stallion, you know. You get them started with something kind of simple at first. So that's why I think perhaps Arteza with a simple set is going to be a good bet for starting artists. Okay, so let's get started and let's take a look at how these behave and watch the painting in process. All right, let's get going. Here are the products again, and I'm just going to do a box opening or a product reveal. And again, this is the Arteza watercolor paper. It is 100% cotton. And now that I've actually done the painting already, I can say I was very happy with this watercolor paper. This one, it says it on the front that it's acid free and it's an expert quality. The paper took water. I'm kind of heavy handed with my use of water, so it did really well and worked great with the pastels also. Now this is their box of 60. Again, I think it's overkill if you're just doing underpaintings because watercolors are mixable, but you know, as artists, who doesn't love getting more beautiful colors? I think I really just want to play around with these just for their watercolor watercolor purposes, and I might just do some watercolor paintings with them because they look so fun. I sped this up because, oh my gosh, look how many tubes of colors are in here. It's fantastic. And the box was great presentation. Way to go, Arteza. I'm not sure if it's Arteza or Arteza. They say it a little differently on their phone message. So here are the metallic gouache paints. Gouaches, I always remember to say it like squash. And they differ from watercolors in that they are opaque and not transparent. They go on not see-through, whereas watercolor has that beautiful transparent luminescence. So gouache has its wonderful benefits as well, but I don't typically use them for an underpainting. You could, but I usually like to preserve the luminosity of the paper, and that's the point of this painting. Now, I'd like to point out that since I've already done this painting and I'm doing a voiceover now, I can tell you that I was very happy with this product to be used as an underpainting for pastel painting. I didn't use the gouache as much as I did the paper and the watercolors, but I wanted to mention here that Arteza has given a coupon code for you guys, the viewers. If you'd like to order these products, watch the painting first, see if you like it and see if you want to order them. But if you use the coupon code Susan Jenkins 1, and the S is capital and the J is capital. I'll have it you can read it down here. When you click the link that's in the description of this video. So in this video, if you go to I think it's the About section, I'm going to have listed in the description the links to get to these products. So to recap, just in case you want to order any of these products, make sure you go to the link in this video you're watching right now. Look for the About section in this video. You'll see the links that I've posted. If you go to Arteza's site through your web browser, this coupon code is not going to work. So that's why I'm saying this. And this coupon code is only good until April 25th. So again, click the links in this video, check out the products. If you decide to order, make sure you enter the coupon code Susan Jenkins 1 to get the 10% off. Again, only good until April 25th. Okay, that's enough sales for this video. Let's get started on the fun part. It's time to paint. Okay, so this is the photo that I used. I'm trying very hard to find this on my computer so I can share it in this video. This is a painting that I did at a workshop. Now this is on UArt paper. I didn't finish it. I only had so long to do it at the workshop, but it had a warm underpainting that I actually did with other pastels and an alcohol wash. But I love the brightness of that sunshine. So that's what I'm going, oh yeah, you gotta have, or you don't have to, but I love my Monet Cafe coffee mug, and I'll provide a link in case you want to get one. It's nice. It keeps your coffee nice and hot. And so anyway, here I am getting the Arteza, however you say it, paper ready. I taped it all the way down on the sides. I don't always do this with my pastel pieces if it's a good flat paper, but I'm going to be using a lot of water with this, and the paper will buckle. So I want to make sure I get it ready in case it tries to buckle. Now here I am picking out the colors I want. I want to capture the warmth of that sunset, and so I'm pulling out some of the ones that are warmer in color. I'm almost doing a warm underpainting. If you've seen some of my videos, it's like a complementary to the complementary colors to the green grasses. You can see that I had that in that other painting, the pastel painting. And so now I'm picking out some sky colors, and it was overwhelming how many colors there were to choose from. But I fairly quickly picked out the ones that I thought were going to work well for this painting. Now what I want you to compare, I'll try to do a comparison shot at the end, is I was very happy with how these worked. They stayed very light and luminescent, and I was able to get the effect that I wanted, keeping that sunlight very bright and light colored, light in value. Now you saw what I was using there. This is just the top to a Tupperware container. Purpose being that, or point being that you don't have to go and buy anything special. I had another little empty little palette, and I couldn't find it. So I just grabbed this. It had a neat little well in the middle of it. So, just be resourceful and use what you have. So all I'm doing now is just squeezing out the little tubes and squeezing out a little bit of the color. You don't have to do too much because we're really not doing that much watercolor in this painting. So now I've got it right here. And like I said before, if those happen to dry, you can still use them. You just wet them, with your brush. Now water, paper towels. I like to keep a few of these handy because I dab my brush a lot. Now here we go. What I'm going to do first is I'm making some marks. I don't want to have my horizon line halfway. I like that upper third. So I'm just taking a harder new pastel, and I just broke it there because sometimes I like to use smaller pieces. Now you can see the texture of the watercolor paper as I'm getting this down. Now these are big shapes is all I'm doing. I'm just focusing on where things are, kind of to give me a roadmap of where I'm going when I start applying the watercolor. But I am going to go ahead and get in some of the big shapes. I want to create a interest in making a road of some sort, meander, not a road, but a path of flowers or depth to the field or whatever. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just putting on water. I'm being a little careful with some finesse to try not to get that brownish sepia color into the sky, but I want to wet the whole paper because the watercolors that I apply, I want them to just be kind of flowy and light, and that having the watercolor paper wet prior to putting it down is just going to help it blend better. All right, so now I've got everything wet, and I'm just getting started. I'm going to go ahead and do the sky, kind of get some of the blue, and I'm really just, I kind of didn't need to do as much as I did with the sky because the pastels did a lot of the work, but really just, again, to give me kind of a roadmap of where clouds are and where big shapes are. So just kind of dabbling in here. And as you see, all I have to do, now I want to get that like golden orangey color that's down by the sun, and that's what I want to preserve. And I'm getting in like some of the other sky colors that I see. There's some beautiful pink under the clouds. There was some beautiful pink colors underneath. And again, I was going to say before, I want to compare at the end. I did compare at the end the difference between the pastel 100% pastel painting that I did on the UArt versus this painting that I did on watercolor paper. Now UArt paper is, if you're not familiar with pastel papers, UArt paper is a very popular one. Pastel papers are sanded typically. You have to have some grit when you're applying pastel so it has something to hold on to. And the UArt paper is a great paper. It literally feels like sandpaper, but it happens to be like an off-white, which is great for most purposes. I usually don't like working on white paper, but when you're trying to get something to be luminescent, sometimes like a sky, sometimes it's nice to work on a white surface. And so that was the case with this particular painting. So I was kind of happy that the watercolor paper was white. And when I compared at the end, it absolutely was brighter and lighter in feel than the other one on UArt paper. So now, as you can see, I'm doing what's called a complementary warm painting as an underpainting. I'm getting in some darks for the trees. I decided to use kind of some purples. I'm using kind of a big flat brush for almost 100% of this underpainting. Bigger brushes are usually better. You want to keep this real general and bold and not too fussy. Again, I'm reinforcing some of the shadows on the right side there and the shadows in that grassy kind of trail that meanders through the field. Values are always darker in the foreground and lighter in the background. So that's why I'm getting my darkest darks in that foreground grassy part. So you can kind of already see we've got a nice luminescent, bright underpainting, which is really capturing that light. Now, I played around with a couple of these metallic gouache, or just one of them I tried. I realized that it is, because it's opaque, it's not transparent, it has its purposes, but I was cleaning my brush there. I could see that it was losing the effect that I wanted rather than enhancing it. Right there, you see how it behaves like almost like an acrylic paint, and I didn't want that, so I quickly decided, nah, I'm just going to leave this underpainting as is, and I'll probably do another video with just the gouache set. I'm excited to see how they'll come out, but now I'm taking it off. It is a little warped. So what I do, you can see the warping there, is I just turn it over and I give it a good coat of water on the back, and that often will straighten out the paper. It kind of flattens it out. And if it doesn't do it right away, it didn't with mine, by the time I was finished with the painting, I mean, that piece of watercolor paper is totally flat now, so I was real happy with that. All right, so everything looks good except we need some grit to this. So you may have seen some of my videos before where I use this product called Clear Gesso. It's made by Liquitex. There's other companies, but Liquitex Clear Liquid Gesso. Make sure you get the clear. It's the one that has the little grit, almost like a sanded consistency to it. And I put it on in a decent coat. You know, you want to make sure you get that grit, because what we're doing now is we're creating a surface for that pastel to hold on to. If I didn't do this, I mean, you could get some pastels on it, but very quickly they would become muddy. You couldn't get any layering effect. And so this is kind of an inexpensive and fun way to make watercolor paper able to take pastel. And again, this is for those who are budget conscious, it's really an economical way to do it. Now here's my pastel selection. I'm actually going to talk about this. I'm not going to do the voiceover because I'm going to explain more right here. These are going to be some of those darker value blues that is more over to the right upper part of the photo. You know, whenever the sun is somewhere, which is on the left side of the photo, it's going to be lighter in value, brighter, and on the right side where it's further away from the sun is where we're going to get these real pretty blues like this. But I do have some lighter blues, and it's always better to mix up some pretty variations of blue to give it interest. And this will probably be my darkest, if it even goes in the sky. It might be too dark for the sky. But I'm going to throw in some of these pinks and neutrals in here too in the sky. Now these are going more towards some of the cloud colors. Some of these purples will go over into some of the shadows. This was just a neat in-between purple and pink color. I really liked that there. That may be some of the clouds as well. I might have to tone it down in value. Here's some of the pinks that I'm going to use in the clouds. And this is the sunshine. Okay, we're gonna really, the brightest spot is where the sun is, and you don't necessarily have to draw a circle when you're doing a sunset, sunrise, whatever, when the sun's in the sky. Sometimes it's good to just kind of keep those lost edges, it's called, to where it's kind of nondescript. So these are some of my pretty lighter value, I'm getting them all dirty by touching them, areas of where the sun is. It is going to have a little punch of orange in there. Variation of greens with a cool green in here too for the shadowy areas. Getting some darker greens where it comes down closer to the foreground. Over in here, well, we're back to the sky again. In here I've got my darks, okay? And in my hand over here, you guys know I love color if you followed my videos. These are perhaps going to be my punchy colors. You see that? I don't even know if you can see it so great. It's like a really pretty punchy pink and in that blue. I got the sun coming in from my window on the right here. So anyway, we'll see what we do with those. All right, so let's get started. The paper's dry now and it's time to get going. All right, now to get started with the pastel, the paper's dry and it's relatively flat. It does flatten out more over time, but I'm keeping just a small little image of my reference photo next to me. I'm providing the larger one for you, and I'm going to try to, like I've been doing in the past videos of mine, on my website, susanjenkinsfineart.com. I will have under As Seen on Monet Cafe tab, I'll have the actual video with the photograph, the reference image, available for you to download or to copy, or or whatever, so that you can have a larger image of this actual photograph if you want to try to recreate or practice this painting here. So I'm finding that people have been giving good feedback to that, so I'm going to try to keep that up. All right, so now all I'm doing is applying pastel over the watercolor and the gesso, and I'm trying very careful though. If you've been working with pastel very long, very quickly we can get things muddy and sometimes overwork something. So I'm going to be very careful and pay extra close attention to keeping that sun part of the painting very light and bright, and also to try not to overwork the sky in general. So I just want to get in some bright colors and kind of suggest the clouds without getting too crazy. Oh, sorry, jumped ahead a little bit. Darkening out that main cloud with just some purple. I think I gray it down or blue it down a little bit later. But anyway, I'm going to just continue with this with a little music, and I'll pop back in here every so often with some commentary, things that I might help with your painting, and hopefully if you want to try to recreate this. I wanted to add here, or mention here, for you to notice the difference in value, meaning lightness or darkness, and also the coolness of the colors that I'm using for those background trees. When things are in the distance, you get air or atmosphere in between you and what you're seeing, and it's a lot of atmosphere, so things pale out, lighten in value, and get cooler. So that's why those background trees are not the same darkness of these trees that I'm doing right here. So now I'm just kind of reinforcing the darks in this painting with those foreground trees. They're going to be the darkest thing in the painting, other than some of the grass you'll see I start to add at the foreground. here I wanted to make mention for you to notice how I'm kind of I'm glazing over this underpainting rather than doing individual grasses. And so I'm keeping kind of a light touch. I'm just getting in the colors and the warmth of the grasses, because the grasses, even though this is a darker photo, it happens to be at a time of day that I love. It's called the golden hour. I think I mentioned that I had, this is a special photo to me. I'll go ahead and share with you. I had a dear artist friend pass away from lung cancer, and she was an artist and a great photographer. And when I would take pictures of my field in my backyard and she would see them, she says, "Oh, that's the golden hour, that perfect time when the sun just casts this golden glow and a warmth on everything." So the grasses did, even though they were darker, they had a warmth to them. That's why I've got, you know, some of my warmer greens that I'm using. I thought I'd add some commentary here as I'm sort of getting to the final stages of this painting. Again, I wanted to mention that I'm very happy with the Arteza, however you say it, paper, the watercolor paper. It behaved very nicely, and I would definitely use this again and buy it again. It's a reasonable price. I was also happy with the watercolors. Me personally, I have another nice professional watercolor set. I wouldn't buy 60 of them, and if I was just starting out, I would probably buy the 12 or the 24 set, again, because you can mix your own colors. You get 12 colors, you can make just a plethora of other colors. Having them already pre-made was convenient, I have to admit. So, but that was nice. So I'll try to do another watercolor, or actually use the metallic gouache product they gave me for a separate video. I want to play around with that anyway, so that's going to be fun. But I wanted to make note here, I get people asking all the time, why an underpainting? And I think you can probably see in this particular painting, can you just see that glow? How I laid down the warm colors prior to the pastel. And if you are careful and not too heavy-handed, not to cover it all up, just light glazing of the pastels, almost like you're just glazing those grasses over it, you really get that beautiful warm tone showing through. It gives the painting much more interest. And I think the reason is because that's how light behaves. I mean, if you've got warmth in the sky and, you know, and a certain mood going on, it reflects everywhere. Light is fantastic that way. And I think you could probably agree or imagine that if I had done this pastel on simply white watercolor paper, let's say I just put the clear gesso down, I didn't do any watercolor, I didn't do any underpainting, and I just started with pastel and didn't do a complementary, a warm underpainting, and just had the white showing through versus that red, that beautiful warm rosy color showing through, it just would not have the same feel. So underpaintings are very important for creating a mood, and they kind of get you in the mood too. That's one of the neat things I find about them. And I have people ask me all the time, what determines what color underpainting, what you do? Sometimes it's just the moment. Sometimes I'm just experimenting. So I want to encourage you, and I know I'll probably have some people who comment on, I don't know if Arteza is archival. I know the paper is. I'm checking on the actual watercolors. I'll be sure to put that in the about section when I find out. But you know, a lot of times we get far too serious about things and like just want to have everything just so. But when you're starting out, now of course that's not for the professional. If you're professional and you're selling your paintings as fine art, definitely get the artist grade supplies, and be careful to make things archival. But when we're just playing around, you know, or you're, especially if you're just beginning, don't go overboard or get too carried away with everything having to be expensive and the best. Now, I will say, if you are going to choose one thing to spend the most money on, do it on pastels. Okay, there is a definite difference in the quality of pastels. Artist grade pastels are far superior to student grade pastels. And but play around on different paper surfaces. Don't spend too much on watercolor watercolor products for underpaintings, unless you just really start to love that as a technique. So it's all trial and error, experimentation, and everything. But again, we don't get too serious. Just have lots of fun. I always encourage us to keep the joy in our artwork and our painting. So here's the final painting. I thought I'd do a little kind of a close up there. And this one was very fun. I had a personal memory from this particular painting that was very special to me. So anyway, if you want to try it, feel free to find the reference photo on SusanJenkinsFineArt.com. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to this channel. It's full of wonderful, wonderful people who make lots of comments. You can learn a lot. And join us in our Facebook group, Monet Cafe Art Group. Thanks. Happy painting.